In 1903 I had to return briefly to the potteries before I moved to live in Paris. And I spent an evening at the Grand Theatre Hanley, which hadn't been built when I lived here. An immense carved and gilded interior, like a smaller version of the Paris Opera. The most touching item on the bill for me was a lady clog dancer. Hanley was the centre of a land of clogs. I've wakened in winter darkness to the sound of clogs on slushy pavements. And when I think of clogs, I think of the knocker-up, and hurried fire lighting, and tea and thick bread, and the factory gates, and the terrible timekeeper standing there with his clock. Now clogs have nearly gone out of working life, but here they reappear in clog dancing, once done in public houses by people who next morning would clatter to work in clogs. As I lumbered home in the electric tramcar, besieged by printed requests from the tramway company not on any account to spit, I could not help thinking and thinking in a very trite way that art is a wonderful thing.
Throughout the land on Saturdays there comes from work a rest, and each one spends his holiday as seems to him the best. Some play at golf, some go to fish, some sit at home and dream. But we will join the crowd that goes to cheer their favourite team. Stoke, Stoke, play up Stoke, show them how to play at football. Stoke, Stoke, all the folk will come to see you play at football. Bang down the field, boys, and shove the other side away. For it's now, then, bark up, win another game today. The football club of Stoke-on-Trent has had its ups and downs. Its managers have had at least their share of fortune's frowns. Things all went wrong, but once again the team is going up. And one day soon we hope to hear that they have won the cup. Stoke, Stoke, play up Stoke, show them how to play at football. Stoke, Stoke, all the folk will come to see you play at football. Bang down the field, boys, and shove the other side away. For it's now, then, bark up, win another game today. All honour to the local lads, good sportsmen through and through. And welcome to the visitors, for they are triers too. And all who come to play at Stoke will very quickly find, if they potter in the potteries, they'll soon be left behind. Stoke, Stoke, play up Stoke, show them how to play at football. Stoke, Stoke, all the folk will come to see you play at football. Bang down the field, boys, and shove the other side away. For it's now, then, bark up, win another game today. Then here's good luck to all who play at football's merry game. And may they be good sportsmen all, and think a foul a shame. And while we're ready to applaud the play of other folk, we'll keep the loudest cheer we've got for bucking up old Stoke. Stoke, Stoke, play up Stoke, show them how to play at football. Stoke, Stoke, all the folk will come to see you play at football. Bang down the field, boys, and shove the other side away. For it's now, then, bark up, win another game today.
In 1923, over 250,000 people clamoured to get inside the Empire Stadium, Wembley, to see its debut as the new home of English football. With only 100,000 expected, the authorities were totally unprepared for the largest crowd ever witnessed for a cup tie. Remarkably, a solitary, police-mounted white horse managed to disperse the masses to allow the FA Cup final to go ahead. The game itself was a comfortable one for the favourites Bolton against a stubborn second division West Ham side, and despite a pitch covered in debris, they won 2-0.
The origins of the distinctive look of the Underground, I think, go back to the first decade of the 20th century when a number of the new tube lines were opened. They had a problem, a marketing problem, as we call it today, because they'd spent a lot of money building these new lines. They hadn't got enough passengers. They needed to find new ways to attract people onto the system. A lot of the marketing that was developed in the early years of the century was down to one man, Frank Pick, who joined the new Underground Electric Railways of London, as it was then called, as initially its traffic officer. His main job was to publicise the system. And one of the first things he did was to start publicising it through posters. And this became the distinctive trademark of the Underground. They're very high quality graphic design posters, starting from about 1908. And within a fairly short space of time, the Underground was becoming quite famous, really, as a commissioner of high quality graphic design, and was using artists ranging from the young, new, innovative artists and quite radical styles to some of the more conservative, traditional designers. So there was a very wide range of posters, but all of them had a distinctive look because they also had distinctive lettering on them. He actually commissioned Edward Johnston, who was one of the leading lettering experts of the time, to design a whole typeface for the Underground, and the Johnston lettering has been used ever since 1916 for the Underground's lettering. A new version called New Johnston is still in use today. And Pick also developed and introduced onto the posters and elsewhere on the system the famous bar and circle device, the London Transport symbol, which started off in use on Underground stations as a way of simply naming the station, the bar, and a disc at that stage behind it, and it developed into the bar and circle we know today.
The other thing that I should perhaps mention is the effect the tube had on the West End. The West End of London was, for a long time, an upper-class residential area with very few shops and virtually no business development. But after the tubes arrived in the 1900s, they much encouraged the growth of the big departmental stores like Selfridges and D.H. Evans and Debenham and Freebody and all those big shops, and Harrods at Knightsbridge. The prosperity, which had been greatly assisted by the existence of the tube railways, which was brought to these shops, was seen in the way they rebuilt and expanded very greatly in the 20s and 30s, so that Regent Street and Oxford Street and Knightsbridge became some of the finest shopping streets in Europe. They owed a lot of this to the tube railways. That was a stimulus to the entertainment industry. The cinemas around Leicester Square and Piccadilly Circus, Tottenham Court Road, cinemas and theatres, they all took up very well with the convenience and access of the tube railways provided, with trains running till after midnight. People in those days, not many people owned cars, and they used public transport, and very often they would come into London for a special treat, come up to the West End to the theatre or the cinema, and they would use the tube either all the way from their suburban home or else on the main line to a mainline terminus, and then use the tube to get to Leicester Square or Piccadilly Circus, where all these theatres and so forth were.
My friend Ronald Wright and I, Ronald Wright's now a monk, travelled on every single line of the underground system and got out at every single station. And the result is that I still know the whole underground map of London by heart. And you know, each line had a very strong personality. I remember the city in South London with its little orange engines and sort of basket-work seats to the carriages. And then there was the central London, which, the Twopenny Tube, which had a very strong personality too. It had electric lights with cut glass shades and white tiles in the station, and was ventilated by a system called ozone air, which was meant to smell like the sea. You were meant to think you were at Margate. I don't think you did very much. And then there were the Whittaker Wright lines, the Hampstead and Highgate and the Bakerloo. They had, again, carriages with basket-work seats and a man who pulled a lever and opened the doors in between the carriages, the iron gates. And there used to be a clicking noise and then dead silence. But the line we liked best of all was the Metropolitan, which ran from Baker Street. And in those days, there used to be a restaurant on Baker Street station before that great Chiltern Court was built, with panelling round it and stained glass and sepia photographs making Middlesex look the most delicious country. And that used to tempt us out.
Sit you down and see, mid this fine woodwork and a smell of dinner, a stained glass windmill and a pot of tea, and sepia views of leafy lanes in Pinner. Then visualize, far down the shining lines, your parents' homestead, set in murmuring pines. Smoothly from Harrow, passing Preston Road, they saw the last green fields and misty sky. At Neasden, watched a workman's train unload, and with the morning villas sliding by, they felt so sure on their electric trip that youth and progress were in partnership.
Mr. Right, will he ever come along? I've been searching day and night, and all I find is Mr. Wrong. If that one and only one should come my way, I'll be sure to love him, come what may. Until I'm damn good and ready. No one but the right man can do me wrong. And he needn't be like Rudy Valley, but he must learn to radio around my alley. No one but the right man skip and leave me with a song. And I want no sheep who'll grow weak just as I'm going strong. And if he's all there in his silk pajamas, why, he can have the best of all the red-hot mamas. No one but the right man can do me wrong.
Arnold Bennett was one of the great writers in the English language. He's in the Dickens League. He is one of the immortals.
Anchovy sauce, please. Bennett in his day was the man of letters in England. No one was more famous.
Chop side, please.
Yes, sir. Like Tolstoy and Flaubert, he utterly understood women. He understood servants, he understood people who were seemingly the peripheries of life. He understood humanity.
I need the anchovy sauce as well. We can finish the omelette there.
He's a classic writer whose work changed the way we think and live now. And if we've forgotten it, that's our loss.
Probably the best known thing about him now is his omelette at the Savoy, omelette Arnold Bennett. And, you know, a great writer really should be known for more than his omelette.
On y va, pick up an omelette Arnold Bennett on table 63, please.
At London's Savoy Hotel, you can still order the dish they named after their most famous customer in 1924. A friend of the rich and famous, owner of a luxury yacht, Arnold Bennett had built a vast reputation. But his real fame lay beyond smart hotels, because Arnold Bennett was the people's writer. He transformed their lives into art, and the popular artists of the street repaid the compliment.
My man Fred has just been into the study with news. A pavement artist has done you, sir, very lifelike. I saw it myself at Hyde Park Corner. A new manifestation of fame.
Bennett had become Britain's greatest ever literary celebrity.
In the last decade of Bennett's life, he was perhaps the most famous writer in the world. He wrote for the press, he wrote popular novels. He was a star. He was a very, very famous figure. Everybody knew who he was.
I don't think there's any writer today who has the fame, sometimes there's notoriety, the almost universal admiration that Bennett had. The most popular novelists in Britain today just can't compare for him with, I guess, recognition in the street, recognition of his name, admiration throughout the entire country.
Bennett knew that eccentricities like his distinctive quiff gave him instant face recognition.
When I was sitting at a dinner in the Savoy 20 years ago, looking for small talk with the Minister of the Arts, I said, "Did you know that Arnold Bennett had an omelette named after him at the Savoy?" And he said, "No, I didn't know that. Is Arnold Bennett here tonight?"
Crazy river, I've gone crazy too. Crazy words, crazy
crazy tune, all that you'll ever hear him croon. Bo-do-do, bo-do-do-do-do. Bo-do-do sits around all night long, sings the same words to every song. Bo-do-do, bo-do-do-do-do. His ukulele daily, how he'll strum, bum bum bum, vamping and stamping. Then he hollers black bottom, crazy words, crazy tune. He'll be driving me crazy soon. Bo-do-do, bo-do-do-do-do.
So you and I must split the setting on a last goodbye. When from the west the light has fled, it's time to go under at your sleepy eye. Close your eyes and leave the world behind you. Close your eyes, the morning comes to find you. While the stars are shining, only your past dreams will remind you. Through the skies, a silver moon